Welcome to my live. I am going to be talking about my birth stories tonight. I tried to do this yesterday. Sorry, I had to log off early. Both of the kids were having fun, and my husband's playing Call of Duty. So if you happen to hear anything in the background, that's him playing his game. Hi, Mama. Yep, I'm going live on Substack. I'm sharing birth stories, so if they don't want to hear about placentas, they should probably be appreciative. Uh, So I'm sharing my birth stories tonight, and probably gonna cry because the first one's very traumatic, and it's been a long day. But um, yeah, this will be fun. My mom's on. Okay, so I'm gonna start with I got pregnant um, in January of 2021. That's a whole other thing we'll talk about another time. And the pregnancy was textbook. Everything was exactly on track. Everything measured just right. He moved just right. Everything was just right. Everything was perfect. Perfect pregnancy, whole time. Then I got sick at 35 weeks with COVID. And I tried really, really hard to just will it away, just will myself and my good immune system to do its job. And unfortunately, my body could not do both that and pregnancy. So I went into preterm labor at 35 weeks and 6 days. I ignored a lot of the signs of labor, thinking it a UTI because it was a lot of back pain. I spent some time in the bath, which did alleviate a lot of it. And because it did go away, even though briefly, I thought maybe it was false labor, maybe everything was fine. Enough that I tried to go to bed that night. And then at midnight, I realized, nope, it's not going away. Got to go to the doctor right now. I think at that point, my contractions were about every 10 or 20 minutes. I think it was for 20 minutes. I think it was about 20 minutes apart. But they were strong and uncomfortable. And I'm like, something's fucking wrong. So we went to the local hospital. We lived in a really rural town. So we didn't have, there was no OBGYN. There was no midwife. There was nobody skilled in childbirth at all, in labor and delivery at that hospital. And we knew that, but we figured, hey, it's the closest one. If something's wrong that I'm going to die right now, then that's the closest one. They can call somebody. I don't know. They pretty much couldn't even find their Doppler and offered an ambulance ride or an IV. And so we're like, we can drive faster than you. Fuck off. And I got in the truck and drove over the mountain pass to Grand Junction.
We went home first.
We did go home first to get the go bag, but that's just details I skip over considering the situation. We were right across from the hospital. It was a 30-second trip to get from the hospital to our house to get the go bag to then drive to Junction. I was having contractions every 2 minutes at this point, and they were lasting about a minute each. And I was watching the clock because I had nothing else to do other than writhe in pain and scream. And my poor husband was sitting there with a fever and a migraine because he also was sick. And he still, like, I think I remember you having your hand over your eye at one point.
Yeah, because it was causing me.
Because the migraine was so bad that he was starting to get double vision,
I
and
was throwing up. Shoot.
we were sick. But we made it there, and I remember knowing it was going to be a C-section. I remember driving in, like, we got over the mountain pass. It was still about 30 minutes to the hospital. And I remember going, this is going to be a C-section. This is going to be a C-section. We got to go in. I got to tell them this is a C-section. They got to take me back right away. I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm giving, like, it's too early. Something's wrong. So we get there. They get me up there. And I'm screaming and writhing in pain every time they touch me. Um, they get the monitor around my belly, and I am yelling at her to take it off me. Take it off, take it off, take it off. It hurts. Take it off, take it off. Because my placenta, I had an anterior placenta, which is in the front. So I was experiencing placental abruption. Um, all of that pain right in the front was my placenta falling apart. I found out very recently, from talking with the midwife who delivered my second baby, who was going over all of the details of the hospital report that I did not get a chance to see. My placenta was in pieces, was just falling apart. So when the nurses are doing their thing and trying to get the heartbeat, they catch it at one point. I remember sitting on the toilet, and that's when the blood started. Um, and it was like really angry, bright red blood. They had asked right before then if I had any blood, and I hadn't up until literally that point. I started bleeding on the toilet. Um, and the nurse, I could see in her face. I could see it in her face. She understood how bad this was. And she gets me into the bed, and she does not try for the monitor, like the band of the monitor, but she tries to hold the monitor on where she last heard the heartbeat so that she could try. And I just remember hating her hands on me and screaming. And that poor woman, doctor comes in, checks my cervix. I was like 4.5 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm expecting her to take in all the information, to hear the nurse explain that I couldn't tolerate the monitor, that I had COVID, that I was early, and say, okay, this is a cesarean, because that meets all of the requirements for an emergency cesarean. Everything that was happening in that room needed a cesarean. She doesn't make eye contact with me. I see her grab something off the table and go, okay, I'm just going to break your water now. I'm just going to break your water now. And she had her hand like this when I crossed my legs and screamed no at her and said, I do not consent. Don't touch me. She threw her hands up, and I noticed she had like the hook. It looks like a crochet hook almost. And that's what they use to insert and break your water. And she's like, well, what do you expect me to do? Like, okay, I expected to have to like fight for a vaginal birth if I had to go to the hospital. I did not expect to have to fight for a C-section during an emergency. So I was pissed. And I screamed. I'm pretty sure the eye roll was audible. Because I was like, this is obviously a fucking C-section. I need a fucking C-section, so give me the goddamn C-section. This bitch has the audacity to look at my husband and go, are you gonna let her do this? Are you gonna let her do this? Are you gonna let her make decisions about her own body? So he looks at me just to make sure, because we talked about birth plans. We talked about what we do in various emergencies. And it was always he would defer to me. So he looks at me and he goes, you said you didn't want a C-section. Is this what you need? Is this what you want? Whatever the specific is. I remember, honey, you said you didn't want a C-section. And I remember looking in his eyes and saying, I need one. It has,
It's very decisive, yes.
he just needed a clear, decisive yes. And I'm like,
without all the craziness, without anybody else,
just,
looking at me, just.
and that's a moment that I will treasure for the rest of my life because of that one look of love and complete and utter trust in me. That look is the one beautiful, positive happiest moment of that birth experience was that look that he gave me, where he looked me in my eye and trusted me when I said it had to happen. He nodded, and then he kind of looked at the doctor. What are you waiting for? You heard her. Then they took me. I heard the nurse explaining to the OB on the way in while the anesthesiologist was setting me up and after the catheter had been inserted. And I heard the nurse explaining to the doctor, she needs the C-section. This is really bad. Something's really wrong. And then everything went dark. I remember I was really relieved when, like, after the catheter was in and when the anesthesiologist was getting ready to tell me to start counting back from 10. I remember a big sense of calm and a certainty that I would wake up on the other, like, I would wake up. And I remember being very relieved that I did not have to be awake because I was really scared. I was really scared. And I knew there were risks to the anesthesia while pregnant, but I knew the risks were probably greater if I was awake just because of how panicked I was. Um, so like, it was kind of bliss when he started telling me to count back. I was like, oh, thank fuck. I don't have to worry for at least a bit. I don't have to fucking worry.
Yeah.
I know. I know. I know. I woke up and I woke up and the nurse was there and I had a very flat tummy. That was odd to me. I expected there to be more of a baby bump still. Because I've seen all the videos, things they don't tell you about postpartum. And a lot of them included like mothers that looked like they were still 3 months pregnant on their way home with the baby. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I might still look pregnant after the baby's out. No, I did not. I went right back to laying flat with a flat belly almost immediately, and it shocked me to the point of immediate tears when I yeah. And the nurse was wonderful. It was the same nurse that was checking the monitor and was telling the doctor that something was really wrong. And she immediately comes to me and she's like, "You did fantastic. The baby is fine. He's in the NICU. He's doing great. Let's get you back to your husband. He's probably worried sick." And they wheeled me out, got me back in the room. And
No, they took the strictest photo away from the room we saw you did.
but they got you in then. And then
You tell me anything. Okay, come with us.
yeah, they didn't really, they like, all she told me when I woke up and saw my belly and started crying was just, baby's okay. Let's, get your husband. And I remember holding her hand while we FaceTimed and got to look at our baby. And my amazing mom was able to come out and be with him.
She wasn't too happy with me on the phone.
Oh, yeah, she remembers.
Too happy with me.
That whole situation, nobody was happy. But, we made it through, and good news is 7 days later, after I got to hold him once, a day after he was born, I did get to hold him. Thank you, Mom. You made that happen. All of the phone calls, all of the everything, and thank you for that. That saved my life in a lot of ways. And the good news is we got to bring him home. I got to breastfeed again, thanks to my mom. And now he is a beautiful, thriving, happy 3.5-year-old. Extremely energetic, runs around in circles, played at the park for over an hour and a half today and wanted to stay longer. Oh, it was a long day. But good news is he's here. Now that was the first birth. On to my second one. Much happier. Much, much, much happier. Actually, really, really excited about this one. Got pregnant. And again, textbook pregnancy. Hyperemesis, gravidarum, throwing up all the time, throwing up stomach acid on an empty stomach, whatever. But otherwise, very healthy, measured exactly on track. Every single time I went to the midwife, everything was perfect all the time. Blood pressure was perfect. Textbook pregnancy. And I remember having a feeling that the baby was going to come early. And I didn't know how early. I didn't think it was going to be like early, but I was like, it was going to come before her due date. She's going to come before her due date. I don't know how long, but she's going to come before her due date. And don't know why. I just had a feeling. Same way I had the feeling that she was a girl. And I was right. We were right. That was awesome. That was very validating for my witchy intuition when I had my positive pregnancy test and was like, it's a girl.
We all are the same.
And we both did. I looked up at myself in the mirror with a positive test. I'm like, it's a fucking girl. Walk outside, show you, it's a girl. We both had the same reaction. And then we had the 20-week anatomy scan and we held each other's hand. We're like, we don't care. It could be a boy or girl. We really don't fucking care. Did not matter. We just felt like it was a girl. We kind of looked at each other. We looked at the screen. And there was the vulva. And we were like, that's not a penis. Definitely is not one. So we were really excited only because we knew. That's what was really exciting about it, was our intuition was right. Love having a little girl, love having a little boy, but did not have gender preference really. Anyway, so around a month before my due date, around 36 weeks, I started having like panic attacks. 35 weeks to 36 weeks was a horrible week. And then 36 to 37 was like almost worse because it was, 36 weeks was when I gave birth to my son. So that was like the hurdle. And once I got to 37 weeks, I was officially early term to the point where it would be safe to have a home birth, which is what I was planning. Spoiler alert, I had a home VBAC. Success. Yay. And so for like the whole month, from about 36 weeks until 38, 39 weeks, I was having contractions, but they were Braxton Hicks contractions. I remember freaking out 36 weeks and 37, like 36, 37. I'm like, oh God, every contraction. I was like, oh God, please be Braxton, please be Braxton, please be Braxton. And they were always like a contraction and then 20 minutes later, a contraction and then an hour later. So like they were inconsistent. They were obviously Braxton Hicks, but my psyche, I was having like daily panic attacks that whole fucking week. Once I got to 37, I was like, and I relaxed and there was lots of contractions. They were happening all the time. And then the last like 38 weeks rolled around, more contractions. 39 weeks comes around, more contractions. To the point where I was like baby watch every day. Mom, you remember? Every day we were like, oh, maybe. Well, probably not today. And then, ironically, the day that I woke up in labor, was 6:30 or 7 in the morning. I think my first contraction was like 6:30 in the morning. 2 hours before then, I had woken up. When I was pregnant, I woke up between 2 and 4 AM, like, every single fucking day, religiously. Um, and at that particular morning, I woke up at 3, and I was up until about 4:20. And then I'm like, "Fuck it. I'm not having any contractions." No contractions woke me up in the middle of the night, which bummed me out because I had been having contractions. So I was like, when I woke up and there were none, it's like, "Motherfucker." Well, scrolled on my phone for about an hour, had a little bit of peace and relaxing, quiet in the early morning, felt kind of peaceful, and then I felt nice and tired, and I was like, "Okay, I'll go back to bed." 6:30, wake up like, "Oh, ow, ow." Really strong contraction, but woke up that way before, so rolled back over, go back to sleep. And then 7 o'clock, woke up and I rolled over on my knees and groaned. And that's when my husband was like, "You're in labor." As sure as he said it's a girl, he was like, "You're in labor." It was that instantaneous. I'm like, "No, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not in labor." And so I'm like trying to go back to sleep, and then I get another contraction like less than 10 minutes later. He goes, "Okay, I'm up." And he gets up and starts getting dressed and going to the bathroom and like doing his thing, getting ready. I'm like, "No, I can't be in labor." It was 39 weeks and 5 days. I had my 40-week appointment that day at noon. I get in the shower because I was planning on getting a shower that morning anyway. I felt disgusting. I hadn't had a shower in like a week. My hair was greasy. I was yucky. I needed a shower. Um, so I'm in there in the hot water. My contractions had moved every 5 minutes, like really quickly. So from the time that I had told my mom, or my husband had told my mom, I don't even remember who told what. I just remember the words being spoken, um, that they were 10 minutes apart. And then I get into the shower and then I'm like, oh no, these are like fucking 5 minutes apart at this point because they were coming much faster. And, laboring in the water was really nice, but I knew if I wanted to have any hot water for my tub, I needed to get the fuck out, which my mom, as my doula, reminded me multiple times. So I did. Um, you also still didn't think that it was time to call, like, the midwife to get there. And I'm like, "Well, we need the midwife here now." And you're like, "No, no, she can wait a little bit." And then I threw up. And then you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, let's get the midwife over here." Um, I was bouncing on my birth ball. My son comes over, hugging me, worried about me. So sweet. So, "Mom, are you okay?" And he's like holding my hand while I waddle my happy ass down to the birth tub in the basement. And I used up all the hot water, of course, in the shower, so I couldn't stay in the bathtub. So we had to get me into the jacuzzi, but that was upstairs. There's no fucking way I was going back upstairs. So we drove me around up a hill in the side by side. Forgot about that until reliving it just now. Um, you did. You had everything ready. And get me in the hot tub. My mom's making it cooler with the hose water. And I'm just like, "Oh, this feels fucking good. Okay, I don't want to get out. I don't want to get out. I don't want to get out. Fuck, I gotta poo. Don't want to poop in the jacuzzi." I did have to poop, by the way. Poop came out of me, so I was right. Waddled my butt. I love you too, mama. Um, I waddled my butt over to the toilet, and I broke my own water over the toilet. I freaked out, thinking that I was feeling the baby's head because something was there. Something was coming out of me. Um, Content warning here. This birth is going to be more explicit than the last because I actually witnessed this one. I didn't really witness the last one. I just witnessed the leading up to it. This one I actually witnessed and was an active participant in. Um, so over the toilet, I'm doing my thing, and I reach up and I feel something soft, and I'm like, "Oh God, is this the baby's head?" And then I like put a little bit of pressure, and it was way too soft, and I was like, "Oh, thank God." I'm like, "Well, what is this?" And I kind of pinched it and pulled, and then just I hear splash, and then trickle of. It was a big splash, and then just trickle of water, and I was like, "Oh, my water broke. I just broke my water." That was at 9 in the morning, 9:19, 9:16. It's written up there. 9:12. It was 9 something in the morning. 9:11. It was 9:11 in the morning. I labored a lot on that toilet. I think I just didn't want to make a mess. Um, we had the bed set up so that I could lay on the bed as an alternative birthing space if my birth pool didn't work out, and worked out very well because my birthing pool did not work out. Which honestly was fine because being on my hands and knees was really helpful in laboring in the 9:18. It was 9:18. 9:18. 9:18. Okay. My mom fact checked me. It's written up there. I could go fact check it myself later. But I trust you. She wrote it down on the board. She would know.
She was there.
She was there. Uh so I get in the bed, and being on my hands and knees was like the most comfortable position. And the whole time my husband's there, and he's holding me, and he's like squeezing me while I push, and just giving me the biggest hugs and letting me squeeze his hand. And that was like the most romantic thing ever. I fell in love with you so much more that day. You know that?
Mm-hmm.
I know. I know. I am too. It's almost 10:30. Uh, that was like so romantic. Mom's your birth partner should be like that, because that was beautiful, and it was everything I needed. And my mom was there making sure I was hydrated, taking sips of water. It was beautiful the whole time. I remember the midwives coming in, and uh pause here to talk about my mom's birth with me. You had me at home with a midwife, and she was laboring on her hands and knees on her bed when the midwife walked in, and looked up and was presented with my mom's backside, and likely me on my way kind of getting out of there. And she goes, "Well, hello there." And my mom's like, "Oh, I think I'm ready to push." She goes, "Well, let's see. Let's get going." And she started pushing. Um,
She walked in.
back to me.
Hello.
Back to me. I'm on my hands and knees when the midwives come in, and it was very much a hello moment. It was very parallel to my mom's birth, which is wonderful, I think. Um, so there I am, hands and knees. I birthed her on my hands and knees in bed. And so cool about that. Um the midwife was wonderful. She hung out in the background. She just like would occasionally come check the heartbeat and then leave me alone and do her thing and walk around, talk to my mom, and come check on baby's position, making the way down. All right, cool, beautiful. And then walk away. And it was the most peaceful. I remember being a little aggravated at one point when she wanted to check, and I'm like, "Oh, Christ." And I like rolled over, and I'm like, I'm a whale with this giant belly, and I'm naked as the day I'm born, and I'm about to birth another naked baby. And I was just irritated a little but at the same time, I remember being like, wanting to know if because at first she was checking higher up, and I can tell now she's going lower and lower trying to hear the baby. So once I had to roll over for her to find the heartbeat, I was like, okay, all right, we're getting somewhere actually. And it was almost a relief, even though it irritated me. Like I remember like that brief pause and then getting back on my hands and knees. And I did not scream, apparently. I thought I was screaming, but others around me assured me that it was more, what, a cow? A grunting cow is more. I don't know. I'm not gonna mimic it right now. Grunting cow into a muffled into a pillow, I guess. Is probably the best way to describe it. And looking back at the videos, it's very fair. I was not screaming. It definitely did sound like a cow though. Um, what was really cool is I got to touch her head as she started crowning, which gave me a lot of courage because when the midwife was like, reach your hand down, your baby's head is there. I was like, holy shit, there's a fucking human head right there. It's coming out of me. Oh my God. The ring of fire hurts. That ring of fire when it like stretches to the like largest point of the baby's head. That hurt. That hurt for sure. Um, but also because I was expecting it, it did not hurt as bad as I thought it would. Um, I guess it was like as expected, maybe. It definitely was not worse than I expected it to be. I do remember that that was about the point when I was like, "Oh God, someone help me." I was like, "Oh God, someone help me." And I hear some chuckles. Everybody starts just kind of laughing. And my mom's like, "We are, honey. We are helping you. This is how we're helping you. You have to do this part. Nobody can do it for me. I had to do it." And I did. Um, got the head out. The cord was partially around her neck, and the midwife very skillfully, very quickly, without a word, just unraveled it. And I remember reaching down, ready for like the head, because I had just felt the head, and my hand was still kind of like down on the bed. And it went from nothing there to a very, very warm rope. And that was the umbilical cord just kind of like plopping into my hand after she unraveled it and more of the baby came out. And once that head was out, she just kind of slithered on. This beautiful purple vernix covered alien mushy baby was just beautiful and did this little flail into the midwife's arms as she gave her a nice gentle little rock to make sure she was, you know, alive, I guess. Uh, and as soon as she got that little eye open, aware, she handed her right off to my husband, who lifted her right up to my arms. And it was the most beautiful moment. And now we're about at the funniest part. But I'm going to take a moment.
God.
But I'm going to take a moment because this was so healing and validating that had I not gotten COVID, I could have done it. Had I not gotten COVID, had everything gone right the first time, I could have done it. And I felt a bit of grief for what was stolen, what felt stolen from all of us when that happened. And I also felt a bit of healing and redemption in giving birth again and actually being able to do it that time. I know I saved my own life with my first birth because I demanded the cesarean. I advocated for myself. I said, no, don't touch me. I need a cesarean. Get me the fucking cesarean. And I saved my life and my baby's. I was an active participant in that way. But in this way, with my second birth with my daughter, I was able to actually bring her to life, which I'm so grateful for.
Dude, get us out of this, Wally.
And then I get on my back. There's still the placenta. There's still the cord attached to me. I handed our sweet, disgustingly covered in yogurt looking vernix baby to my husband, while I was shaking from the shock of just shitting a human being. And got comfortable, so that he could hand her back to me. Did you have her when the placenta came out, or was I holding her? I was holding, that's right. Okay, yes. I was holding her. He had given her back to me. I remember. Okay. I remember now. Yes, I'm holding her, and I'm looking at her. And she's so beautiful, and she's gorgeous, and she's like so sleepy. So she's just like all squishy face snuggled in, and just so like, oh, so cute. Smells so good. And then all of a sudden, I just get like a little cramp, and the midwife starts walking over to be like, "All right, looks like that cord's about done." Like the cord was flaccid. It went from, the bright purple and pumping to flaccid and white. And she's like, "All right, looks like that cord's about done. Let's check on check on things." She takes like 2 steps towards me, and then it just, the placenta just kind of goes blip and pops out of me. It was just, it was the easiest 3rd stage of labor I think anybody had ever seen, because that was literally like, I felt a cramp, not a contraction. Other women talk about experiencing a full blown contraction and like, oh shit, am I having another baby? Like, what the fuck is this? And like having to push the placenta out. Um, yeah, I did not have to do that. That thing just kind of came out of me of its own volition. I also very much experienced the fetal ejection reflex, which I think tied into this. So the fetal ejection reflex is where your vagina is a sphincter, and therefore it acts like a sphincter. So it will naturally, during contractions and during that stage of labor with the pushing, will naturally eject the fetus. Um, so that even if you do not purposefully, actively push, the baby's going to make its way out. Not everybody experiences the fetal ejection reflex, and in some women who do experience it, it's stronger than others. It's very individual. It's not a guarantee, and it's just, it's very common in precipitous labors where it's a very, very short labor, and these are common where like mom does not get to birthing place before baby comes out. These are often like babies born in cars, babies born on the way to the hospital, babies born like in the fucking parking lot. Like, usually it's very precipitous. And that's because of the fetal ejection reflex. I did experience that, and my labor was very, very quick. Waking up in labor at 6:30, 7 in the morning, and baby was out of me at 11 a.m. 11 and 59 seconds. So literally a second longer, and she would have been born at 11:01. Um, ah, God, I'm just so flushed with oxytocin thinking about it. And then, the placenta made all of us laugh and made my husband gag. Well, actually, to be fair, I don't know if you gagged. You went outside. He took a moment and very proud. He did not throw up. He was a little shocked because he was looking directly at it when it just shot
Just
out
so
there.
happened to sit off.
Well, I made a grunt and he got concerned. So reflexively, he sat up and was like, "What's wrong?" Was looking at the wrong place at the wrong time. So that is an image that will be permanently scarred in his brain for the rest of his life, I am sure.
Mhm.
I lucked out. The baby in my belly that was still rather large was beautifully blocking that lovely organ right there. long enough for the midwife to come and scoop it up in a bowl and cover it. And at that point, I was finally no longer pregnant. Yay. I'm so happy I finally got to share my birth stories that I could not share last night due to very angry, non-sleeping children. Um, so finally getting to share that was very nice and cathartic. And I hope sharing it will help anybody else who is not sure what to expect or needs another place to know that other mothers experience something similar. I'd like to hear your birth story. I hope you share. I did read The Positive Birth Book by Millie Hill, and I highly recommend that to anybody who's currently pregnant or trying to get pregnant. It is a wonderful book about how to make your birth experience as positive as possible, no matter how it comes about. It is because of that book that I knew what breaking my water would do, and what the OB wanted to do was place a fetal electrode, um, which is a sensor that they have to screw into the baby's scalp. It's not like a gigantic ass screw or anything. Um, but the point being, I knew that that was not a positive intervention at that moment in time and would have caused me, it would not have prevented my cesarean. I needed a cesarean. And breaking my waters to place a fetal electrode was just going to give them information about the baby's health, not mine. They were prioritizing the wrong thing, basically. So, because of the book, The Positive Birth Book, I knew what a fetal electrode was. I knew what the process of it was. I knew what the risks associated with it were, and I knew what the benefits of it were. And therefore, I was able to make an informed decision, which is what informed consent means. And when you don't have all the information, you cannot make an informed decision. And the time to get that information is not actively when you're in the middle of an emergency. It's before an emergency happens. So when I was pregnant with my son, I made 3 different birth plans. I made my ideal birth plan, which was at the time a birth center birth with midwives, a vaginal birth. I wanted no fetal monitoring. I wanted, a whole bunch of different stuff. And I could do a water birth and all this. So that was my ideal birth center birth. Perfect world. That's what I wanted to have happen. Then I had a transfer to a hospital, but still had a vaginal birth, meaning for whatever reason, I could not give birth at the birth center or with the midwives. And I had to be transferred to a hospital, whether in labor or, insurance reasons, whatever. If I had to go to the hospital, but I could still have a vaginal birth, that was my plan. And it was basically the same as the birth center, just changed a couple of details. So that would be specific to a hospital. And then I made an emergency cesarean one, which was basically under the assumption that I would go into labor and either go to the birth center first or go to the hospital, try for a vaginal, and then go for a cesarean. I did not really think of the situation that I ended up in, which was preterm labor. And in hindsight's 2020, if I knew then what I know now, I would have made a better emergency plan, probably 4 plans. However, I did make an emergency cesarean plan, and at least I was able to think about what I wanted to have happen in a cesarean. Um, and I included some things in the birth plan that would be like, if it were an option, like if I were having a cesarean because baby was breech and therefore I could plan it and it wasn't, urgent, then I could ask for certain things. If it was a type of cesarean where we don't have time for that, would I want anesthesia? Would I not want anesthesia? And I answered those kinds of questions. The Positive Birth Book by Millie Hill, she does have a website as well where you can create a visual birth plan for free. This is like her website. She has the birth plan stuff for free. You can go on there and do that. You can purchase stuff as well, but you don't have to. The great thing about reading the book is it gives you all the information you need to build your birth plan however you like, with whatever tools you prefer. The visual birth plan just has like little icons so that you can just look at it and know quickly what the mom wants, like music, no music, dad to catch baby, doctor to catch baby, etc. Um, so I made a plan for that. And because I made that plan for that and I knew what could go wrong because of that book, I was able to make an informed choice. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I was more relaxed because I had already made the birth plans the first time. I did make a home birth one, so that was a little different, and I gave that to my midwife. But I also just let her know that I was really flexible to whatever I felt in the moment, and I just wanted them to be flexible with whatever I felt in the moment. And they were so open to that. And they're like, cool, awesome. I see this is what you want, and we're going to keep that marked down. We're going to keep a copy of this. And that way, when you are in labor, we can check them off the list. And if you change your mind, perfect. If you don't, perfect. And it was great. They were wonderful. It was lovely. They made me so happy. So I highly recommend having a birth plan because even if you don't get your perfect birth or you don't follow the birth plan, the reason for making it isn't so that things go according to plan. It's so that you know what to do if things don't go to plan. It's so that you've thought about it and you know what options you have. So that's my little bit of information. That's my suggestion for any moms out there, any parents out there. And I would love to hear your birth story. Feel free to share in the comments or tag me in your posts. Thank you so much.